Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to do a little bit of rebuild and cleaning on this carburetor here, as one of my viewers requested. Now, if you were the one who requested it, today's the day that we are going to clean this out. So, let's get into it. So we did do a rebuild pretty recently to this carburetor. It needed a new needle, and I'm not sure if it got a new seat, but it does have a new needle in it for fuel flow because it was overflowing, and that is one thing that gets worn out. So that would be the first thing I'd replace if I had an old carb when I was working on a bike that hadn't ran in a while. I would at least get one of those, just so that at least it won't leak fuel or flood once you get everything back together. So to start off, I got a 3mm Allen wrench, and we've got 4 bolts to get off. So I'm gonna loosen them all up first and pop this mixture screw out. So we did get a Tusk mixture screw. The reason we got this is because it's a little longer, so you can actually adjust it from the bottom instead of the stock one, which is way up inside. So what I'm going to do is set it to the side that you'll see when it's on the bike. And it's at 1 right now, so I'm going to count how many turns it is out by threading it back in until it seats. And there's 1 turn, 2 turns, so looks like about 2 1/8 turns to where it gets seated. So now I'm going to back it fully out, and I'll probably set it to 2 turns out or a little under, since everything is fresh with the engine, but I'll see. And so you're gonna tip the carb up because there is a couple of things, a spring and a washer, and the O-ring usually stays up inside. Now I can finish backing all these screws out. This one holds the idle adjustment, and I'm pretty sure some of these bikes will come with normal screws instead of Allens, and for that you'll probably want a Japanese industry standard screwdriver, and I'll link the ones I've been using below, but for this particular carburetor that is not needed. And as you can see, this carb already has the blue hose treatment over the stock pink ones that go brown over time. They were brown on this guy. Might need to trim that one and get it on a little better, but the float ball should be able to come off now. Take it off carefully. There's a little bit of dirt in there. Camera probably isn't going to pick it up, but there's a little bit of dirt way down at the bottom. So I'll set that off to the side. And now we're down to the part that is full of gas when you're running it. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to pop out the jets here. 6mm wrench or socket to pop out the main. And the main is clean. As you can see light through it. And I've got a flathead screwdriver. This one I'm using fits real well into these jets. Looks like the pilot jet is clean too, but this is usually the culprit. If your bike won't idle or won't start or just starts not running clean, you have to richen up the fuel screw, then this is probably the problem. So what I usually do with these, usually if you look through them, you can't see anything or it's all blurry down at the bottom. And if you blow through them, sometimes it's just gas in them. But this has been dry. It is clean, but if you blow through it and nothing comes out and doesn't go clean, it needs to be cleaned. So you get a wire here. It's just some electrical wire, probably like 20 gauge or something. Looks pretty small. And what you do is you strip it back and you take 1 or 2 of the strands, wrap together. This jet's probably only gonna need 1. And you feed it into it and kind of ream it out. Like so. Let me see if the 2 is gonna fit. No. And you wanna do all of these little holes on it too. Usually these don't get super clogged up, but it might not run right even if there's a little bit in there. Could throw off the atomization of the fuel after it leaves. So something like that. And now if you hit it with compressed air or carb cleaner and you look through it, carb cleaner before you blow it out, and you should be able to see light through it. The camera won't pick that up for sure. And if you guys want to run the jetting, I'm running on this bike. I don't know if it's going to be quite accurate because everything's freshly rebuilt, but it's a 42 Pilot, a 162 main, and let me pull out the secondary and see what it is. So it looks like the secondary is a 72. Same thing with the secondary. Make sure it's nice and clean. Ream it out a little bit, and that should be good for the jets. So moving on, I'll show you guys how to take out the needle, and I don't think you can take the seats out of these carbs without getting deep into it. So just a right angled pick to pop the pin out of the float. And here's the needle. This one's pretty clean. I'll see if I have one that wasn't sealing, and I'll take a picture of it with my phone to show you. But normally what you'll see is a little line that will run around this where it's been seating into the seat here, and that line, if it gets big enough, worn down enough, if the rubber is missing or anything, stuff could come out of that and fuel wouldn't stay in there, and it could then go out the overflow or flood the carburetor. But this one is good, and on this bike it looks like if you take a Phillips screwdriver, loosen this guy up, you can pop out the seat. That's pretty self-explanatory. I think there's a gasket behind that or a washer or something. That just pops out. You can pop in a new one with the washer, throw that screw in, but normally just replacing the needle will solve any problems with fuel leaking, because when we did our 250 YZ250 4-stroke, that had a problem of it was leaking, and the seat on that, you have to split the carburetor right here. You can see there's a seam. You got to split that to get to it. So we didn't replace that. The kit didn't even come with a new seat, so we just threw the new needle in, got everything cleaned out, and it's still working just fine. So normally that's everything that you're gonna have to do to a carb. This one is gonna get a little bit of cleaning, so I'll leave all this stuff out. Fuel level was looking good though, so I think everything on this carburetor is good and ready to go back on. But I'll show you guys how to go about messing with the needle if you need to change it. This bike has never been changed, I don't think. I think it was changed, but we changed it back because it was working fine. And this bike was probably tuned for sea level, and we're running it at 4,000 to 10,000 feet. Gets a little lean up at 10,000 feet, but the 426, almost a 450, so it's got plenty of grunt to keep going. So here's the inside of the carburetor, and I'm not quite sure on this one, but if you take out this Allen here, I think if you take out this Allen here, you have access to the needle. You can push it out and then get it off of there, but I'm not sure. I haven't done this, and you can find plenty of videos on how to do this. Normally it's not the problem. If that is a problem with your bike, then you might want to check to make sure everything else is good, because this bike hasn't had any problems. It's still stock, and we ran it up to 10,000 feet, and we've been down at sea level, no problems. You're probably better off messing with the main jet, the mixture screw, the pilot before you touch the needle. It's just easier to do those kind of things, and I don't have any need to take it apart any further than this because it's operating as it should. Only thing I'm gonna do here next is I'm going to take off this back flange where the airbox goes on, and I'm going to clean it up a little bit. Those guys were a little tight, and you could, I don't know if you still can, but at one point you were able to get these air smoothers, not necessarily smoothers, but stabilizers that would either replace this whole piece or bolt inside of here. It's supposed to stabilize the airflow going through the carburetor. And there's the slide. If you have a newer carburetor, newer bike, you probably won't be able to take that off, but we can take off the air jet just to make sure that it's nice and clean too. I don't see that why there would be anything in here. Nope, because it should be just filtered air getting into here. And I'm not sure if you can get new jets to adjust this, but the other one doesn't even want to come out. Doesn't look like there's anything wrong with it. I'll give it a little bit of a ream from the outside. and I'll find a different screwdriver to pull it out that actually fits in that hole. But anyway, I'll get this stuff cleaned up for you guys, and then I can show you guys how to put it all back together, and might even put it on the bike today. Alright, so we got this carb cleaned up a little bit. The foot bowl, it looks a little better. Body also looks a little bit better. Nothing crazy, but a little bit better. So I think we can start putting this guy back together. So just drop jets in, there they go. If you're following along with this, you're probably not gonna be waiting a couple days in between taking this out and putting it back together. So hopefully I put these in the right spot, but I don't think you can put them in the wrong spot. And once I get this done, we'll be looking a little bit better. Put this on the bike and gets us one step closer to starting it. So I need to get my nut driver to do that center one, but I can get on the float. So it kind of goes on like that, hooks into it, the spring seat, spring needle. And getting everything clean is probably the most important part of doing a carb like this. If it's all gummed up, you just want to make sure all the jets are clean, there's no dirt at the bottom of the float ball or anything like that. So I think that's good. Let me get the nut driver so I can tighten this main up, and then we'll throw that cap back on. Alright, just like that, it's tight. And I got the float bowl nice and clean, and just make sure it goes on right. You can see this hole right here is where the accelerator pump goes, and the accelerator pump is this little shaft right here, pushes down on a diaphragm in the accelerator pump, and that's one of the reasons why these 4-strokes are fast. So that's going to go on something like that. The one screw that doesn't have a retainer or anything on it is this back one here, so I always put this one in first so it holds the float ball on. Put that one in first, and then take the best looking screw and put that in the front here. You got to put the idle screw, idle adjustment on right here, snaps in. And then we got some hose holders, and I did clean up these hoses a little bit, and I'll put a screw in right here. And this hose here lost its little clip, so I'll get that in a minute, but I can put the hose holder on. So it looks like if I were to put it on right here, I think I'll trim it and get some fresh blue. What it looks like kind of wants to be in this order here, and I'll throw this guy on just like so, and I think that'll do it. I just gotta put on float bowl drain here, goes on the bottom like so. This one always falls off, but I think that's it for this carburetor. Should work good. It's all clean now, should work as it should. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope I could help at least one of you who has a 4-stroke and a carburetor, and maybe you learned something even if you don't have a 4-stroke or a carbureted bike. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and have a great rest of your day.